Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, welcome to Monday's college football, basketball, baseball blitz. Rob Browne with Billy Roberts batting in the leadoff position. And next 2 hours, we're going to cover a lot, SEC and Southern College and college across the country. Talk a little about, I'm sure, the NFL playoff games over the weekend. Of course, everybody knows it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts and all these self-appointed experts. His throwing motion isn't good enough. It's this, his that. It's not good enough. The same crap we had to hear from all these mindless living brain donors about Stetson Bennett. He can't play. He can't wins back-to-back national championships because he doesn't fit the narrative. Folks, figure it out. Most people in America are lazy. They don't want to think. And it's just easy to buy into the popular narrative. Okay. So here they are. Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles. They're one of the better running teams as well. And they're playing in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. A couple of years in a row, heartbreak for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. So, man, it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles. And that's going to be a fun one to watch. But second segment, Yancy Porter checks in. Oxford, Mississippi, Rebel Yell Hotline. Top of hour number 2, Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com, with all his thoughts on not just Gators, but SEC and the national picture of college athletics, NIL, and the portal. He has great updates regularly. I suggest you subscribe to GatorBaitMedia.com. And then Jordan Hill joins us, 24/7 Sports, in the fourth segment, covers the Georgia Bulldogs for us and does a great job of it. Puts out a lot of great content on social media every day. You can follow him. Then follow us, Sidelines, on Twitter at Sidelines_live. A couple of things to remember. We're here every Monday through Saturday, 2 hours each day, www.sidelines.live. If you miss us live, of course, go to the website or 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta, and you can hear us. Plus, all the social media platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, we're out there. And on radio stations like Sports Radio, 104.7 FM, Cookeville, Tennessee, up on the Cumberland Plateau, and Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin. Billy, that was a lot of fun in the discussion that we had this past Saturday, talking with you and I were with Butch Thompson and also with Kevin Skarbinski. And in the second hour, we were joined by Buddy Martin. A lot of wild conversation. It was really interesting. I think we solved a lot of the world's problems, maybe not all of them, but let's go back. I want to look at the scores from over the weekend. SEC Big 12 Challenge. Yeah, Delta. And SEC Big 12 Challenge, you had the number 2 ranked team, Alabama, got drilled 93-69 at Oklahoma. Auburn got beat 80-77 at West Virginia. Arkansas lost at the buzzer, couldn't convert at Baylor. You saw the theme. I'm not sure. I love these challenges. I think they're great. I wonder how much it bothers these teams losing those games, because you need to get outside of your comfort zone and you need to get wins against quality teams. Those would have been good wins. Big 12 plays great basketball. They're the conference that has the defending national champion Kansas Jayhawks. But what was your takeaway from the SEC Big 12 Challenge over the weekend?
Well, I think that it was a good mid-season kind of matchup to see where you stand heading into March Madness. I think that's probably what the purpose of it is like a wake-up call if you're a little complacent. Auburn maybe falls into that category, right? They've been having a really good season, but they got beat probably unexpected, although they were not favored. I think West Virginia was favored by 3.5 in that game, and they ended up winning by 3. It's amazing, again, how accurate the odds makers can be when they put the line out there. But, I think this is a wake-up call that'll give some coaching material, to all of the coaches so they can power through February and get ready for March Madness with the teams that are going to be tournament eligible. So it was a good thing. It's nice, like you say, to get out of the comfort zone and to measure up against a really good conference with a good level of competition to see where you stack up.
Yeah, and you look at some of these scores on here. I'm just looking on here. Missouri 78, Iowa State 61, Mississippi State 81, TCU, who was ranked 11th, 74. So that was good. Baylor 17th was 67-64 over Arkansas. And then Tennessee ranked 4th, 82-71 over 10th ranked Texas. You had Kansas State at number 15, 64-50 over Florida. Oklahoma State 82-60 over Ole Miss. Kansas ranked 9th now. They're on a 3-game losing streak prior to that in their own league. 77-68 over Kentucky. A&M 72-66 over Vanderbilt. A&M just only has one loss in the conference, folks. They're not the best looking bunch to watch in terms of style and athleticism. They just win, and they win in their conference really well. LSU, Texas Tech gets the win 76-68 over LSU. And again, Missouri 78-61 over Iowa State. But that was probably the most impressive win was Mississippi State taking it to TCU because, TCU are ranked at number 11, and they're the ones who beat Kansas at Kansas just a few weeks ago, and that caught a lot of people's attention. So I think the SEC is really good. I don't think it's the best basketball conference in America. We don't know yet who is. Generally, you can find that out once you get to the NCAA tournament. But we do know this, Billy. The Big Ten will have 9 or 10 teams get into the NCAA tournament, and they won't do anything. Again, just like having 2 Big Ten teams, Ohio State and Michigan, in the college football playoff, that committee, the selection committee for the college football playoff and for the NCAA tournament, they are definitely influenced by the number of TV sets and the geographical footprint that makes up the Big Ten, whether it's football or basketball. Would you agree?
Oh, no doubt about it. I get the Big Ten channel on my cable package all the way down here in Atlanta, and I'm like, I don't know why. But they're getting a few dollars for my TV set being connected to it. So, that Big Ten network has got a big reach television-wise, so there's a presumption there's a lot of eyeballs there, and, they pay attention to that kind of thing. They also, like we talked about with the gambling line a minute ago, I don't really have a lot of interest in that, but clearly the coaches and the refs know that, even though they say they don't. They pay attention to that kind of thing. Sure. So you can assume that everybody pays attention to everything. We're not in any shortage of information these days.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people think that some coaches will make sure and cover the line just to help people out. No, there's only so much they can do to control that. But if they're up, let's say the line is 28 and they're up by 26 with a minute left and they're on the 10-yard line and it's 4th down, do they take a knee or do they kick the field goal? Just that's where I kind of figured out a long time ago. Yeah, they pay attention to the lines. I don't think there's any question about it. Billy, when you look at where we go, SEC football right now, we got the Senior Bowl practices going on this week. And it's going to be fun because Jim Nagy, who's the executive director of the Senior Bowl, and I really want to be able to find the time to get down there to the Senior Bowl. A lot going on up in Memphis and everywhere. But David Schultz is down there in Mobile. He'll be at practice every day. It's really, the game is almost an afterthought. It's the practices. And, you think about what Jim Nagy said and his experience with going to 6 Super Bowls, 4 rings, 1 with the Packers, 2 with the Patriots, and 1 with the Seahawks. He said what they look for in the Senior Bowl practices is how does a player from a smaller school react going up against a player from a bigger, more high profile school, and the other way around. How does the guy from a big school react when he's going up against some offensive lineman from North Dakota State or Northern Iowa? And he is like, wow, can they handle it? Because they've been the biggest, baddest, strongest, fastest, on their team or in their league. That's what the real story, the takeaway is from the Senior Bowl, isn't it?
Well, yeah, no doubt about it. And we see the same thing sometimes in recruiting where a guy he's a star high school player at single A or 2A division in high school, and all of a sudden goes to a D1 college team with a big time talent. Was he a man among boys in single A in a small town in Florida, or can he really play with guys that are just as big and strong as him that maybe are from bigger programs where and have played elite competition, throughout their high school years. So, I think that has a lot to do with it for sure.
Byron Cowart comes to mind out of
Yeah.
Armwood High
Also,
School.
in the Senior Bowl, they're installing a game plan with pro coaches, and the players only have a couple days to assimilate to it. That mimics what they do in the NFL, right? They basically put a brand new game plan in every single week, from scratch, and the players have got to be smart and assimilate and learn. They've only got 2 or 3 days to install a complete game plan, and the Senior Bowl kind of mimics that, I imagine. So it's probably an intellectual test as much as it is a physical test. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, because if you can't handle the playbook and the install during the week and how fast the game goes, and also when you get in pro football, and it's all on you. I mean, there are rules, but there are fines. You don't show up for workouts. You miss practice. You do something in the locker room inappropriate, talking, cussing, whatever. I don't know. They're going to fine you. And those players all of a sudden have all this money, and that $10,000 and $25,000 fine, that stuff adds up. And then if you miss team meetings or you're late, I mean, you can't be late. 5 o'clock means you ought to be there by 4:30. Just get there early. And that way you don't put yourself in a position to fail. That is a problem. But no, I agree with you. And you look at kids that come from the smaller classifications. There's guys from 1A and 2A schools. It's not that they're 1A or 2A schools, but it's the competition they played against. That's why, there have been plenty of guys from small classification schools that have gone on and done really well because that fire burned so intensely within them that they're going to do well in any situation. Herschel Walker, that's one. Tommy Agee was from a small school, Maplesville, Alabama. Happens a lot more than you think. But I'm looking now at the recruiting rankings, Billy. Look across the board. High school kids versus the portal. I'd like to know when these recruiting classes are put together, the recruiting rankings that we see, are those being based? I'm going to ask Yancy Porter about this, but I think I know the answer to this question. But you're supposed to be able to assign 25 kids. In theory, they're all out of high school or some junior college players. But the recruiting services, Billy, they a lot of times don't factor in JUCO players. And now you've got a separate ranking for I guess your high school class, and then the portal rankings. I think Auburn right now, Hugh Freeze has Auburn at number 2 in the portal rankings. Which one carries more weight? I guess that's relative, isn't it?
Well, if you're trying to evaluate how big a kid's going to get when he's in high school, I mean, he might be able to grow 75 more pounds if he's a guy that starts getting good nutrition and good strength and conditioning at a major college program. And I imagine if you look at portal guys are older and then maybe they've already started to develop, so it might be easier to evaluate them as like what they could be versus a guy that's 17 and he's still a puppy. Right, you don't know exactly how big he's going to get. So there probably is something attractive about portal talent versus high school talent, just from an evaluation standpoint.
Yeah. And I'm looking here at like Lane Kiffin, probably in the SEC, is as good a coach as there is at going into the portal and finding the players. Last year, I think he signed 4 kids in Mississippi. I would be careful about doing that because you cannot afford to ever alienate the high school coaches in your own state, much less your own backyard that covers, in Ole Miss's case, Tennessee, Arkansas, right there together. I'd be very careful about that.
Well, sure, and we know Harsin at Auburn, not only alienated the high school coaches, he alienated them by not showing up and getting to know them. So yeah, if your livelihood depends on relationship building, you're very careful about that. And I know that Lane Kiffin has a reckless, kind of a swashbuckling persona, but he's a calculating, smart guy. He's gonna cultivate those relationships for sure, and not. If he makes an error, he'll correct it pretty quickly from a relationship standpoint. He's a very dynamic guy, personality wise. So I'm sure he's a guy that they like to hang with. He was a head coach in the NFL at 29 years old. He's got 27. A lot of stories to tell. He's probably a guy that they would like to get to know just to pick his brain, right?
Yeah, and I think that his approach is pretty much, as Yancy Porter says, come to me, I'll get you to the NFL, especially if you're a quarterback. That's an easy way to look at it. And, I like to see evaluations, and I look at who's evaluating them. If Lane Kiffin likes a quarterback, whether he's in high school or junior college, or he's out there in the portal, his value goes up exponentially. That's just the way it is. He carries a lot of weight. And look at Josh Heupel, same thing. Josh Heupel, cerebrally, one of the best quarterback coaches in America. He's got a challenge with Joe Milton III. We're going to talk more SEC, college football, basketball, baseball, you name it, right after this quick break on Sidelines Monday Roundtable.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
You think about coaches like Josh Heupel at Tennessee. He was at Central Florida, UCF for 3 years. But go back in his background. He played at Oklahoma, was a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy in 2000 when they won the national championship, beat Florida State. Was it 13-4, something like that? Not much of a game.
Yeah.
But that's Florida State's third straight appearance for the national championship. And they lost 2 of those 3. Lost in 98 to Tennessee, of course, in 2000 to Oklahoma. But in 99, they beat Virginia Tech and Michael Vick. That was a really big deal back then. Yeah. But Josh Heupel, Joe Milton III is a rare case because he's out of Pahokee, Florida, down in the muck, Lake Okeechobee, signed with Michigan, started some games as a freshman, and then just it didn't work out. He transferred to Tennessee. He was starting in 21, first few games of the Josh Heupel era. He's got a cannon for an arm, but the short, intermediate passes, like a lot of those guys with a cannon for an arm, they struggle. So Hendon Hooker takes over. Hendon Hooker this year goes down in game 11 against South Carolina. The beatdown, 63-38 in Columbia. Very few people outside of the South Carolina football team probably saw that one coming. Joe Milton III takes over, finishes the game. The next week they beat Vanderbilt 59-0 in Nashville, which doesn't matter. It was mainly 80% Tennessee fans anyway. He wins the bowl game, 28-14 over Clemson. I think Josh Heupel, you're seeing why he just got a contract extension, all things being relative. If you're going to pay people, he's one that has earned it. Joe Milton has everything it takes physically to be a great quarterback. And if they can work with him on the short passing game, it's like, and I'm not a golfer. I got a lot of friends that play golf. What do people struggle with in golf, Billy? The short putting game. Yeah, that's right. What do people struggle with in tennis more than anything? It's up there at the net.
Mm-hmm.
How do your backhands, you don't have to hit the ball as hard as you can when you're at the net and your opponent is back on the baseline. You can just tap it over. It takes years of experience or playing people older than you that will tell you, youth and craziness can be overcome by experience and wisdom. I think Joe Milton and Tennessee this year, if you look at Georgia's schedule, pose the biggest threat to Georgia winning the East again.
I think so too. I mean, here's the thing that blows my mind about Heupel. He came from Central Florida, and as we know, Auburn's former coach Malzahn replaced him there. But they both were in play during the same off season, where people were hiring head coaches, and a lot of Tennessee fans were upset that they didn't hire Malzahn because he had beaten Alabama a couple times, and that they ended up with Heupel, and they wish that Heupel would have stayed at Central Florida and Malzahn would have gone to Tennessee. But man, oh man, nobody would make that trade today. Just a couple of seasons later, it just shows you how wrong people can be about evaluating even coaching talent. Heupel obviously had a good run at Central Florida too, with probably 2-star and 3-star guys. So now that he's at Tennessee with all the resources they've got and the tradition, I'm sure it's an easy sell for a guy like that who was successful at a program that did not have a lot of tradition, right?
No, I agree. And I just got a text from one of our listeners from Ogden, Utah. Jim Swarthout says, Big 12, the best basketball conference in America. Any questions? Okay.
No,
I don't think you can disagree with him. And look, I thought last year, Billy, you remember some of the coaches coming out and making these statements that this was an historically great year in SEC basketball, men's basketball. Well, I didn't agree with that. And you saw the SEC champion Auburn get whacked in the second round of the NCAA tournament by Miami in a 4-guard lineup, lost by 20 points. Who had 3 of the Elite 8 teams last year? Wasn't the SEC.
Yeah.
It was the ACC. But this year, Billy, North Carolina, Duke, where are they? I mean, this is how quickly things change. But when you lose a Coach K, but in the first year, Hubert Davis was at North Carolina, they go and play for everything. Take out Duke. This was it's a strange year in the ACC, but I think historically, top to bottom, in terms of tradition, passion, and everything you love about college basketball, ACC, in my opinion, is the best conference of great athletes and also great basketball players. But the Big 12, not just because of what they did this weekend, but as long as you've got Kansas and Kansas State and Baylor, look how many national championships they've won in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I think what happens too with these conferences like the ACC in basketball and the SEC in football is tradition builds up and the fan bases demand excellence and are willing to pay for that. So the resources and the arenas in the ACC are enormous. The teams have got lots of different, traditions they can point to. They're blue bloods for a reason. So as long as the fans are engaged and they take it seriously and they want to support the program financially, those programs will bounce back pretty quickly, because the fans won't tolerate any less than that. And you see the same thing in the SEC and football. Tennessee, great example. They got a stadium with 104,000 capacity for a reason. The fan base has shown up, historically, and wanting Tennessee to have a big time football program. So they've been in the wilderness a little while, but now they're not. They're back, and the fan base is there. The stadium is going to be full, and Tennessee is set up for another long run. But back in the 70s and 80s, they were right there every year. They had great teams, put guys in the pros all the time. And then for a little while, they kind of lost their way, went through a couple coaches. When, you do see it too, like when a big coach, and Fulmer I'm thinking of with Tennessee after he was gone, they cycled through a couple coaches. Same thing happens probably in basketball in the ACC when a dominant coach who's been in the face of the program for 2 decades or longer is now retiring or stepping down. It takes a while, and the program's going to cycle through a couple of people until they find the next guy that can really take that program back to where it needs to be. It happens a lot, so, most coaches probably don't last 10 years. So if a guy's been around 20 plus, the years, that's big shoes to fill.
Well, it is. And, you talk about, and this is a phrase we hear used a lot to describe programs that haven't won a national championship wandering through the wilderness. Well, that's because one of the most prophetic and true statements I've ever heard said is, once your mind expands from its original size and goes way up here, that means winning a national championship or getting way up in the business world in your profession. It never reverts back to where it was. It's never going to be comfortable with that old standard. So your last national championship, whatever school you pick the school, that's always going to be your standard. And Georgia had to hear about it for 41 years. And now that they've won back-to-back national championships, you've got the crowd out there that it's not right. Well, it's still Alabama. Georgia's not, or right now, the whole career, you can't argue about what Nick Saban's accomplished. It's incredible. He's won more national championships than anybody. Something inside of me makes me think, though, that he wants to get a 7th national championship at Alabama. Although he has 7, 1 was at LSU, 6 are at Bama. If he gets 7 at Alabama, that'll be more than Coach Bryant. If people pay attention to stuff like that. But I bet that, inside he he just wants to keep winning. That's what it boils down to. But Tennessee's last national championship was 1998. So you hear this narrative, they've been wandering through the wilderness. Well, Fulmer, the year before he was let go at Tennessee in 2007, remember they played in the SEC championship and were ahead of LSU in the second half and lost 21-14 ultimately. It wasn't like they did nothing. In 2004, Tennessee played for the SEC championship. In 2001, don't forget, remember the Georgia Dome? They were throwing rose petals at them when they went in there before they played an 8-3 LSU team in the second year of Coach Nick Saban. And all they had to do was beat this, pesky little LSU team that was 8-3, and they go to the Rose Bowl, play for the national championship. Remember that. And that's what happened. They got beat. But Tennessee football is still the 9th winningest program in the history of college football. But we're all about, that's the way we are. What have you done lately? But
and let's define wilderness for a big time SEC school. Wilderness is not consistently inhabiting the top 10 year after year, because a lot of these programs, have the resources to play for national championships on a regular basis. And, you get the outliers, like in Alabama now in Georgia that have been there a couple times in a row, like 4 out of the last 5 years. That's kind of historically unprecedented, I would guess. But, for a significant SEC school, a tier 1 SEC school with the traditions and past national championships, you kind of have to inhabit the top 10 year after year to keep the fan base engaged, where they feel like you got a chance to win it all. If you're recruiting a top 10 recruiting class and your season ending ranking and your bowl game performance puts you in the top 10 at the end of a year, then people feel like, okay, next year we're building towards something. But if you are like in the lower, teens, 17 to 18, that might as well be 40th place to an SEC fan base. They're not interested in that because that gets you the Outback Bowl. That doesn't get you the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or, playing in the playoff, So I think that's where the difference comes. We can point to Auburn. They haven't really been a season-ending top 10 team in a while. They did have some top 10 recruiting classes under Malzahn. I think that's where the frustration came in. Like, what's happening to these guys when they get on campus? Georgia had to answer for that under Rick. He had great recruiting classes, but then there was like a void there. Like when they get on campus, were they not being evaluated right? Were they truly 5 stars, or was that 5-star inflation that we know happens? And all that goes away under Kirby. These guys show up with highly touted, recruiting rankings, and they live up to that billing. So I think that's what's going on. After Dooley, Georgia clicked through several coaches, lots of good ones, lots of guys that won 10 wins a year, but they didn't play for it all until Kirby showed up. Right. Yeah. And so that's the difference.
Well, and I like your take that wandering in the wilderness means if you're a program that's won a national championship or several, and you're not a frequent guest in the top 10, that is wandering in the wilderness. And then you look at programs that retroactively go back and claim national championships. I know Texas A&M, when they joined the SEC in 2012, they suddenly overnight, out of nowhere, picked up 2 more national championships. I guess they had a great summer. Look, most schools claim every national championship that comes their way. They will do it. But for whatever reason, some don't, like Auburn. They claim a couple. They could claim 10. Alabama claims 18. There's some in there you could poke at and say, oh, those aren't legit. But there are other ones they didn't get. They should have received. Just like Auburn was robbed in 2004 or 1983. They were robbed in 66. They were robbed in 77. Alabama was when they beat Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl. Notre Dame went from 5th to 1st because they beat number 1 Texas. Sometimes it's fatigue on the part of the voters. Let's be honest, they just want to put someone else in there because they want to be different. You want to be different, don't you, Private Pile? I'll show you different. What side is this? Bam, what side is that? Left. What side is this? It's the side of the Rebel Yell Hotline. Yancy Porter, catch him Monday nights, 6 p.m. Central. Super Talk Mississippi every Monday night as well. Great content coming out of Oxford. I don't know if he's at the Beacon. Proud Larry's is not open for breakfast, but wherever he is, when Yancy Porter speaks, we love to listen because he's got a lot to say. And Yancy, welcome to Sidelines Monday Sports Blitz.
Speaking of national championships, they used to vote on the national championship before the season was even over, before
That's
bowl
right.
games played. So,
Yeah.
it's, you can go a lot of different directions with that.
Yeah, they did. And you could lose your bowl game and it didn't matter. They changed all that. But Yancy, man, there's a lot going on. We had the SEC, Big 12 basketball challenge over the weekend. And Ole Miss is struggling. And we talked about this last week because I'm a huge fan of Kermit Davis. Everybody likes him. But again, this team, you're right, they struggle to shoot. And is there help on the way in recruiting, whether it's out of high school, junior college, or the transfer portal, so they can because they're struggling, and I don't see anything changing.
Well, they've got the number 10 rated class by ESPN coming in, 3 more top 100 players, but they had 3 top 100 players come in this year. So, I don't know. Yeah, they're like, I think it's roster construction. There's a lot of talent in certain spots, not at other spots. I really think the way that Kermit wants to run his offense, which is the motion half-court offense, you got to have 2 or 3 great shooters and a dominant center, and that's what Ole Miss does not have. He continues to want to fit a square peg in a round hole, and it's just not working out. I wish he could have been more flexible this year and just run and gun. because they got a lot of good athletes and really get up and down the court, but he didn't. Hopefully it doesn't cost him his job, and he's got a chance to rectify the situation next year. And he's got some really good big men coming in and some good shooters coming in, and we'll see. If not, with the transfer portal, the team would get blown up. We all know that.
Yeah, I think so. Billy, jump in here with Yancy Porter.
Yeah, Yancy, I think you're right on about that. So, it's a situation where you've got, you kind of have to take a wait and see approach sometimes. I mean, people, are so information aware now, they jump the gun a lot with evaluations and hot takes, and so I think you're right. We got to take a wait and see.
Hold those thoughts real quick, Yancy, before you come back with that response, because we're going to take a quick break. Yancy Porter, Billy Roberts, Rob Browne, right after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Yancy. I know Billy had a good point he made right before the break. I'd like to hear your answer.
Yeah, it's just a situation where,
No
look.
worries. All right, I'll talk to you. I'll go back.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Billy, Yancy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ole Miss has lost 9 out of their last 10 games, 21 out of their last 25 SEC games. They don't have any identity right now on the team. They look lost. That I don't know. They need a win badly. There's some talent on that team. They just, I don't think the system really matches the personnel, to be honest. But Kermit knows a hell of a lot more basketball than I do. I don't know. I don't know where this is going.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll end well, but right now they talk about wandering in the wilderness. That's where they are. Baseball, you got the defending national champion Ole Miss Rebels. Remember last year we talked so much about baseball with you, and there was just, again, the narrative, Mike Bianco is done. Who's going to replace him? It was over, and they win the national championship following Mississippi State the year before. So right now, the state of Mississippi is the center of the baseball universe. And this year, Ole Miss will be expected to win it all, because once you do it, people think you can do it every year. Let's talk about what's coming back, because baseball practice is underway. We had Butch Thompson on with us Saturday, and they're ready to go.
Yeah, man, first of all, they lost 4 really, really good players led by Tim Elko and, Graham in left field and Hayden Dunhurst at catcher and Bench at third base. Those were 3 4-year players that were the heart and soul of that team. Having said that, they returned 4 everyday players and a pitching staff that it's going to be really, really good. That's what they're going to lean on, but they've got a lot of good bats. And look, this Tyrone Malone, the defensive lineman for Ole Miss, this guy, he could end up being the everyday first baseman at some point in the season. He went 4 for 4 Saturday with three home runs that traveled over 1,300 feet. He had won 458, 442, and 446. He is a man child now. This guy, he's got soft hands defensively, but they got a if Grayson Sagne, the freshman, the right-handed pitcher, 6'6", 210, Bianco says he's the best freshman that's ever entered the program. They could have, they really could. Hunter Elliott and him could be the best 1-2 punch in the country on the mound on Friday and Saturday. So they're going to be really good. They've got a lot of talent returning. They picked up some really good players in the portal, including the Tulane center, Grubbs, a center fielder that is just an unbelievable defensive player. But the kid hit over 400 last year for Tulane. So there's a lot of good at bats. And then Kemp Alderman, he's going to be probably, if not the top power hitter in the country, he'll be one of the top three. He's hit a home run in every single scrimmage through fall and through this short-lived spring ball. So there's going to be a lot of high expectations. There's over 3,000 season ticket holders that could not get in this year. They sold out the stadium before the year started. Ole Miss baseball is creeping up on football in popularity. It's definitely basketball is a distant third now with Ole Miss baseball. I'll say that.
Yeah, well, think about that, Billy. Does Ole Miss have their version of Sonny D on base, a big guy that can knock the ball a mile away? I mean, I think this is going to be great for college baseball.
Well, it will. And, for a long time, we always heard that, college baseball is kind of the equivalent of like AA minor league baseball in terms of talent level. So, a guy that's a really good college player, if he got drafted, would kind of get plugged in at the AA level. But, I look at teams like the Braves, and their AA team is in Mississippi and has been for a long time. A lot of the Braves guys that are now on the major league team, they're jumping right from AA to the majors without going to AAA. AAA's kind of become a holdover for guys that are not prospects any longer. They're a little bit older, but guys are kind of coming out of college, getting drafted, going into AA ball, and then pretty quickly go right to the majors. So that means that guys that are stars in college right now are probably going to be in the majors within a year, which not so long ago, a generation ago, they would have toiled away for 3 or 4 years in the minor league. So that helps with fan engagement too. If you see guys that are, playing great for your college team, and then boom, they show up playing for the Texas Rangers a year later, that always keeps it interesting too. And it's just like the way it is in football. If you can promise a guy that you're going to do a little time in college, but you probably can make your ways to the pros if you come to our program and allow our pitching coaches and hitting coaches to work with you. That's a great thing for recruiting and keeping a program on top. And Ole Miss is in that sweet spot right now, clearly.
Yancy, I think that's a great take. And Ole Miss, Swayze Field, 10,000 plus seats, and standing room only crowds. That is, there are not many places like that in America. 2 of them are in Mississippi. I mean, the people and the money and the passion. I think now Ole Miss has spent $128 million on Swayze Field. There's another $40 million in improvements that are being conducted right now.
Yeah, I know they wish that expansion would have been done immediately after last season. It holds just under 13,000, I think 12,896. They got over 3,000 ticket holders that couldn't get tickets this year. It's already sold out. I imagine with the expansion, it'd go up to about 15,000, 16,000. It's unbelievable where college baseball is going. And then for a school like Ole Miss, the NIL really levels the playing field. Alabama and Mississippi are the only states that don't have some kind of scholarships set up like the Hope scholarships that we see in Georgia and Tennessee and Florida and Arkansas. And then, Vanderbilt gets their scholarship advantages. So now, Ole Miss would have a top 1 or 2 class every 3 years. And now we're seeing that they're lining them up year after year. This year, they brought in the number 2 class. Next year, they got the number 1 class already lined up. So that's really even the playing field with the NIL opportunities. And it's not going to be long before schools like Ole Miss are putting 20, 25,000 people in the stadium.
That is more than a good many major league teams put, especially as the season wears on. You've got 81 home games. And there's crowds, Billy. We've seen it at all these places, not all of them, but a lot of them, 5,000 late season. That college baseball, to me, has more upside than any sport because of where it's been and in such a short period of time, what it's accomplished in the popularity. But it's also, Billy, I think it's annuitizing Major League Baseball. That's what I think is happening because Yancy, we've only got one SEC player that's ever been inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. As crazy as it sounds, and there will be others, but that's Frank Thomas. Billy, and Yancy, that's hard to believe. But again, that's a number that's going to change. But Billy, listening to what Yancy says about what they're doing at Ole Miss, and that's a state where there's not a giant population, but it's close to less than an hour from Memphis. In that area, there's a ton of people, but you don't have to be in a big city to have a great baseball program.
No, you don't. And but Mississippi has always had more than their share of top tier athletes in all sports. For the size of the state, they punch above their weight in terms of putting out professional athletes, and that's been going on a long, long time. So you have that. Clearly, there's a lot of athletic talent, and then you've got a fan base that appreciates sports and is passionate about sports, and baseball in particular. So they're in a good spot, and they continue to win. Winning, is what you got to do to get people's attention. Think about all the things that compete for our time and attention these days, but people will pay attention to a winner and get excited about that because it's worth their time and their money, and Ole Miss is proving that out.
Yeah. Yancy, let's talk what they're doing with the NIL collective, the Grove at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, we all know about the deal with him and Auburn, whatever that was, it was, but he's still at Ole Miss. And you know what? All you got to do is win. Everybody will love you. But they raised a lot of money, and there's a lot of sports that have their hands out that need that money. Where's most of it, I'm sure, is going to football. But in the case of baseball, if you've got a kid you sign out of high school and you've got to worry about him going ahead and taking the money because he gets drafted in the 5th round or the 10th round, maybe he won't at that level. But can your NIL collective compete and keep those guys at Ole Miss? I think they're better going to college and playing baseball in that program.
Well, certainly you can. I know that Ole Miss wish they had that money raised this time last year to keep DeLucia. He needed about $300,000 or $400,000 to keep him around. If you forgot about him, he's the guy that was, so hot at the end of the year last year on the mound for Ole Miss and shut down and won it all. So those are instances, where you have a guy that maybe is draft eligible that is expected to, get $300,000-$500,000. Now you can get them in the NIL and say, hey, hang on for another year, or a guy entering your program out of high school. Like I said, Ole Miss traditionally, because they didn't have the scholarship advantages that these other schools had, they would have a top 3 class 1 year, and then the next 2 years would be, in the 20s to 30 range. And then the 3rd year, when that scholarship freed up, they would get another top class. Now, with the NIL, you're seeing Ole Miss for the next 2 or 3 years, like traditional schools like Florida and LSU and Vandy that had those recruiting advantages. They're top 3 for the next 3 or so years lined up. And you're making a good point about the state of Mississippi. I think out of their 17 baseball signees, 12 were from the state of Mississippi this year. And that's the number 2 rated class in the country. So, Mississippi, and we've talked about this, Rob, when you go to these travel tournaments, and going through it myself since my son was 6 years old. Now he's 16 years old, so we put in a good 10 years now. Everybody talks about just how crazy the state of Mississippi is about baseball. I think a lot of it, too, is because we don't have a professional team here in the state of Mississippi, and neither does Alabama. But, I think that just the hunger grows for that. And look, Alabama, that state is huge in travel baseball. as well as so is Louisiana. So all these states, in Arkansas, another good example, all these states that don't have pro teams, the popularity and the hunger grows by the day.
Yeah, it is. And we talked about East Cobb, Yancy, up in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, 350 plus teams coming up there playing, and that's one. And then you look at the number of schools that are going into Atlanta to East Cobb and recruiting those players. Baseball, but no, and also we got guys that are being brought up here from Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, that a lot of schools are bringing in as well. But it looks to me like there are fewer of those guys coming than there had been, because there's an increase in the number of baseball players being produced just in the southern states alone. And Butch Thompson was talking with us Saturday. He had been, I think, earlier in the week up in New Jersey at a really well-known high school that has produced a number of major league players. So baseball is really big up there as well in the high school level.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a huge resurgence in the game of baseball. I really do. I think people are just fed up with a lot of things with football and basketball in particular. And I think I think baseball, I think the numbers, attendance-wise, TV ratings, I look for everything, not only on the college level, but on the pro level, to really start taking off in the future. I think you're just seeing a big resurgence in the game of baseball. It's really the only pure sport left.
Yeah. Billy?
No, I agree. And, the thing that's interesting is we were talking a moment ago about the correlation between college baseball and the professional leagues in terms of where the talent level slots. So, all the other sports, the college serves as the minor leagues. In basketball, a guy can go right from basketball to a starter in the NBA, and the same thing happens in the NFL. When you draft a guy highly in the NFL draft from college, you expect him to be a starter, maybe even an all-pro pretty quick. Baseball's different. It's a precision game, a lot like golf. It takes a long time to learn it and hone those skills, whether you're a hitter or a pitcher. Certainly a catcher and having to be the quarterback of a baseball team and call the game. There's a lot of experience that's got to be gathered. So it's different. It takes time to incubate a baseball player to where he's going to be a professional caliber player. But with the improvement in travel baseball, these kids are going into college much better, much more prepared. They're physically bigger and stronger and just have played a lot more baseball. And then they're quickly ascending into the majors when they are leaving college. So it's just, you can see that progression. The talent level is risen, and these guys are going right from college into maybe, like I said, 1 year of minor league baseball, and then they pop out into the pros pretty quickly. That didn't happen all that long ago. Guys would play for 4 years in the minors after leaving college before they became a pro. So I think you're just seeing all of that collapse, because travel baseball, we do complain about it. Kids pitch too much. They blow their arms up. They play year round. It's not good. They got to play other sports. There's a lot of things you can say about travel baseball, but what it does do with the guys that are physically able to survive it is they're ready to play. They've been in game situations. They've developed their baseball IQ, and that makes the college product better. And then it's going to, trickle up to pro baseball pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yancy, look, man, we've run out of time in this segment. About to go to a break, but tell people, I love your take on this stuff, man, because we covered all three of the big ones. At Ole Miss, I think we're going to talk more football with you, hopefully later in the week. But I love what's happening with baseball, and your comments carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, quickly, Rob. I think today you'll see two defensive ends commit to Ole Miss that from the state of Florida, actually, that visited over the weekend. Those names are Chamberlain Campbell and DJ Holmes. DJ set the sack record this year in the state of Florida, was number one with 32 and a half sacks this year. So that was really kind of the last piece that Ole Miss was really looking, was to add some more pass rushers, and I believe they're going to get two commitments from those guys today.
Yancy, hold those thoughts through the break. I want to come back. I want to hear that again. And also, these are high school or portal kids. We're going to get that answer. Okay, high school. right after this quick break. More with Yancy and Billy.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
See, I know Billy's got going to be dropping off here in just a second, and you are too. Tell people again, this is big news. Ole Miss football recruiting, and these guys will sign here. Golly, we're talking Wednesday. I mean, this is big.
Yeah, that's Wednesday. Yeah, first Wednesday of February. You know, the second signing day doesn't get any attention anymore.
No.
Everything's on that first signing day, and then everything goes to the portal, right?
Yes.
And we all know that Ole Miss, good gosh, they had 25 players go in the portal, and they picked up 17. So, you know, the high school kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But, you know, personally, I'm happy to see them add some more high school players.
Yeah.
You know, to develop some guys. Who knows if they'll stay around all 4 years, but at least you can try to keep them on your team for those 4 years. But, yeah, this defensive end is one area that they really wanted to get another pass rusher. They lost their top pass rusher to the draft this year, Tavares Robinson. And so, you know, these kids right here, Chamberlain Campbell is out of Lakewood, Florida, and DJ Holmes, the kid that I just spoke about, is out of Pahokee. Pahokee's a 5A school. He's won the 5A Defensive Player of the Year in the state of Florida the last 2 years. So it'll be two big pickups for the Rebels.
That's players that come out of the muck are huge, man. Billy, I know you got to get going, and a great insight from you as always. And Yancy, tell them how they can follow you tonight on Rebel Yell Hotline, and I'll let you go on for the rest of your day.
Yeah, just if you want to follow social media, it's at Yancy Porter, and then on the Rebel Yell Hotline, if you're in the state of Mississippi or Tennessee, you listen to it on WHPQ in Tennessee and Super Talk in the state of Mississippi or anywhere online.
All right. Y'all need more time, but it's a great show, and I look forward to having y'all back on here again very soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Easy.
All right. Hey, man, we're going to switch gears and head down to Gainesville, Florida, to the Swamp, where Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, perhaps the world's most interesting man, along with Frank Duffy and that guy on the Dos Equis commercials, who was replaced by a not so interesting man. Why do people have a great idea in marketing and sales, and it's successful, and they quit using it? The world's most interesting man in those commercials, that to me is one of the greatest ad campaigns ever that I've witnessed on the color TV. Franz, your daily thoughts, one final pithy thought. Let's go. What are you writing about today? I want to hear it. And so does the rest of the world, because when you are on the laptop, the iPad, or the old typewriter, remember those people? I'm really dating ourselves. What are you typing about? What are you writing about?
Before I go any further with that, I got to tell you, I was thinking I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about it just the other day that I had. I remember getting my first portable typewriter, and oh my gosh, you know, the daggum thing must have weighed 30 pounds, you know, and you lug that around. But oh my gosh, you're so proud to be at an event and you have your portable typewriter. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And then along came the first fax machines. What was considered a fax machine? The prelude to it. It was this big long thing that was about 3 feet long, and you'd put it on there, and it would just roll and roll and roll, and down at the other end it would roll and roll and roll too, and you'd start seeing the print from the page come on and on and on. It's called a telecopier. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember getting that in. Oh, uh,
Well, you know what the thing with Franz, I'll say, because you are an exceptional writer. So is Buddy Martin and Tony Barnhart. And you think about what you are writing. That's the key. And I learned from my mother, the best way I've always learned is taking it from my head and writing it on paper. That repetition, over and over and over. That's why the best guests you typically have on this show and shows like ours are your writers. And for a long time, Franz, you remember a lot of newspapers forbid their writers from appearing on sports radio shows. You remember those days?
oh heavens. Well, the thing about it is newspapers had all the technology, Rob. They originally had it. The internet, the sports reporting on the internet popped up as a result of the newspapers trying to hoard all the technology to themselves. They have nobody to blame but themselves for their demise. Not all of it was sports related, but a lot of it was, because they had all the technology, and what they did by hoarding it was they created a cottage industry. People saying, well, if they aren't going to do this and they're going to try to block me, then I'm going to start my own blog and everything like this. And what they did was they created about 16 million reporters out of it. People who said, we don't need the Associated Press, we don't need the Atlanta Journal-Constitution or the Miami Herald or whatever like that. They then had their own outlets, and that's where it all sprung from. The best outlet ever is still, for college sports or the original Gator Country. And now it's still in existence. It's a shell of what it once was. But Buddy and I were with that. We had our own TV show. We were the first ones to do that. We had our own radio show, daily radio show on a radio. And this is back 15, 20 years ago. And we're doing this stuff. We were way ahead of the game. And this is what was created by the newspaper industry hoarding its technology, and people just starting to use the internet for their own purposes.
Well, I mean, along those lines, I can remember in the late 90s, what was happening was people would say there are people that go out to the practice field you pick the school, they take notes, and then they put it on a site, and you can go tap into it and read about it. That was late 90s. I remember in the early 80s, the computer room at school, it was like a meat locker. Had the air conditioning, cool, because you had to keep those gigantic computers that filled up the room, that took up all the oxygen in the room. And now, we're holding them in our hands like this, the smartphone, which came out back in around Christmas 2007. Remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
But it's changed a lot. And a lot of the information, Franz, that we get in the sports media is just crap that's thrown against the wall in Carvillian style in hopes that it will stick, whether it's true or not. A lot of I'm not going to dignify them by calling them sports writers. They're splatterers. Okay. They're just stickers. They're hoping something they say sticks. Be very careful about getting it first versus getting it right. Your comments today, and your thoughts on all this, your insight, your recollection of this is powerful stuff, man, because I believe that we have to sometimes hit rock bottom to get back to what we need to be. And we're close to that with a lot of the crap that's out there in social media. A lot of the people out there are just quick soundbite takes, quick, bam, Sam, woom, kind of like the old Batman, boom, pow, zoom. They don't care about substance, depth, or doing it right. They just want to be first. They want to be popular. They don't care who they destroy in the process.
Well, I agree with that, and it's unfortunate, but it's true that far too many people have this idea that if we aren't first, then we are really screwing up here. And it's kind of like this web. How many websites out there do you see that have this thing? Florida reveals its uniform combination for this game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a story. And see, the whole thing's about getting clicks now. You get ads because so many people will click on a story, and if enough people click on enough stories, that's why you have this thing that Billy Bob Beasley at Auburn University scratched his balls today while he was taking a pee. Oh my gosh, that's supposed to be news. That's not news. That's clickbait.
Yeah,
and we got too much of that.
Yeah, and it's true. And you look at stories that break out there, and we're gonna have Jordan Hill on right after you, 24/7 Sports, who covers Georgia for us. And look, to public intoxication, that you could probably go to a big party and find 200 people that are you could arrest for public intoxication. The reason you get arrested for public intoxication is you walk outside of that party and you do something stupid. Yeah. So something obviously happened that was stupid. I don't know. I'm not a policeman. I didn't see the police report, but why bring that pressure on yourself and your school and your image? Because your brand, who's the only one who can control your brand? It's you.
Yeah.
So don't remember the old Jiminy Cricket little parables they used to have? They're all over YouTube. I'm no fool, no siree.
Yeah.
Those were the best. Only a fool does things the foolish way.
Well, there's that old saying, and my grandfather just used to pound this into me, and he said, "You spend a lifetime building a reputation. It only takes 15 minutes or 15 seconds for your reputation to be gone forever." And Stetson Bennett not only has damaged his squeaky clean image, but he's probably damaged his draft. If he's 6'4", 240 pounds, and he runs a 4.3 40, they're going to say, boys will be boys. When you're 5'10" and a half and 190, and you don't have optimal arm strength, they look at you and say, well, gee, what the heck was he thinking? Does he have the character we need to be on our team? Will people follow him? And there's an old saying, size matters. Well, in this case, size probably does matter a whole bunch, because like I said, if he were 6'4", 240 and ran a 4.3 40, could throw a football 85 yards, people would say boys will be boys.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Stetson Bennett, as you know. I think he should have won the Heisman Trophy. But also remember a Heisman Trophy winner, former quarterback, Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. Remember his social media tour, the stupid stuff he was doing, just bringing attention to himself. And you think that stuff doesn't matter? Look at his NFL career. It was a disaster. It really never took off because the way he acted off the field affected his performance on the field. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Johnny Manziel turned a can't miss talent into a complete miss. I mean, talk about dropping the absolute ball for once and forever. He did it. And was there a reason to do it? All I can say is, from what I understand, he grew up rich. He had all the money in the world to begin with. Football was sort of his stake of claim to fame, and he thought, well, I already got money. I'm just bulletproof. I'm invisible, and I can do whatever I want. Well, you're not bulletproof, and you're not invisible. Particularly when you win a Heisman Trophy or when you lead your team to consecutive national championships. People look up to you. People will follow you. I think kids have a hard time grasping the fact that they no longer have anonymity. They think that, it's kind of like this, Rob. Okay, if I'm a college football player and I go out there and I have a great game on Saturday, I am, as Dan Jenkins once wrote, Saturday's hero.
Yeah.
But then I fade into oblivion from Saturday through the following Friday. I mean, stories may be written and everything, but nobody sees me or hears from me again. And then I pop up there on Saturday and I do things. But when you win that Heisman Trophy, when you lead those two national championships, suddenly people have eyes, ears, whatever, cameras rolling, and you no longer are anonymous. Suddenly everybody knows you. Your business is the business of every single fan or detractor out there. The detractor's looking for a reason to de-heroize you. That's not a word, but I just made it up. How about that?
Hey, that'll work.
And your supporters looking for every way to, okay, you found a stray cat today. You found a stray cat today, and you got him home before the dog catcher and cat catcher came and took you to the shelter where you'd get euthanized. You're a hero, And this is what we've got, and this is what the internet has created. This is what social media has done for us.
Yeah.
It's turned it into 24/7. And if you are somebody who is that hero, you don't have the ability to shelter yourself behind the college campus, behind the door, the ivy covered walls of your college campus. You no longer have that anymore.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me, but we're going to go to a break in a minute, then we'll come back with more. Folks, we're talking with Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com. He is perhaps the world's most interesting journalist. How about that? He once saw a man writing a story and read it. See, that's interesting. I mean, but that's kind of the stuff that comes out now. It's like, you look at young people today, when they wake up, the first thing they do is they're staring at a screen.
You got it.
Because, God, I may have missed something overnight. Now, granted, in what I do and what you do, I'm paying attention but I'm also, I'm looking at what I need to know, but I'm not chit-chatting, just silliness.
No,
but that's what a lot of it is, and it's a brain drain. We're going to talk more, though, right after this quick break on Monday's Sidelines.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Friends, that's something, the negativity that's out there. People are obsessed with it. I mean, I use the term because I heard it one time from Don Conley in a sales cassette tape. It was really good. Don Conley is one of the best speakers I've ever heard. And he talked about the negativity that's out there in the press, whether it's the sports media or the regular news media. But the negativity is so bad that he said, if Meet the Press were around at the time that the light bulb was invented, they would have lamented the death of the candle. Now, as an optimist, I would say, hey, man, it created scented candles and different colored candles, all kinds of new opportunities for the candle maker and the light bulb. Mr. Edison was a very smart man, but like anything, there's always a reason something works. Remember the electric or the steam locomotive electric engine was invented, I think, by somebody in Great Britain.
Yeah,
there was no real interest in it until the Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is what they call their treasurer, said, well, you do know we can tax it. Oh, yes, this is a great idea. So the terms of endearment in life, business, sports, you name it, follow the money trail. If you can take somebody down, people will try to do it. They love to build you up, but just as quickly, they love to tear you down. And I hope, for the sake of Stetson Bennett and Georgia, whatever he did, just get it fixed. Okay?
This was just, there have been four things that have happened at Georgia that are significant since the national championship in 3 weeks. And they are all significant in that I wouldn't say that the program is crumbling, but there are cracks in the foundation. The case of Devin Willock and Chandler LaCroix, their death, turns out they had been at a strip club. They're using an unauthorized vehicle that's been rented to haul recruits around. Now there are questions: were recruits at the strip joint with them? The toxicology report hasn't been released yet, but they were driving in an excessive speed, didn't have seat belts on, and they died in there. That's launched a real investigation, and people say, "Oh, come on, that's just guys out there having fun to celebrate." But when you got people who are doing things like using unauthorized vehicles, they're et cetera, like that, and all this story that's around it, and it's kind of like the Biden papers. Stuff's just leaking one little thing at a time on this. There was no consistent statement from the beginning. Okay, these guys were using if Georgia had come out and said these guys were using an unauthorized vehicle and it complicates matters, their death, we're sad for them dying, etc., they could have quashed it. But the way they've allowed things to leak out little bit by little bit, it's made the story maybe bigger than life, and it's not good for the Georgia image. Then you have Rara Thomas from Mississippi.
Eufaula, Alabama, a Mississippi State transfer.
Yeah, a Mississippi State transfer, a guy that was considered probably going to be a starting wide receiver next year. Certainly, was going to fit very big into their plans. False imprisonment. It turns out the woman he was living with in Starkville, who he brings to Athens with him, is 17 years old, underage, a minor. and you got a guy that's living with them. Okay, how many guys do you have that are living with minors in your program? Raises that question, in addition to the false imprisonment. Stetson Bennett comes along. And then on the same day you hit the news that Stetson Bennett comes along, out pops the news that Todd Monken has interviewed as the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and that he's going to interview with at least 2 or 3 more teams. Todd Monken has got one foot out the door already. And you question, is it because the NFL, the challenge of college football is over and the NFL is luring him back into where he came from? Or is it a case of this is the fastest way to get out of here because the foundation is getting all these cracks in it and there are others to come?
Well, one thing for sure, and you hope for Georgia's sake that they, whatever's going on, they better fix it. But when you win a national championship or you win back-to-back national championships, you can be assured that there are sharks swimming in the water around the Georgia football program. That's just, unfortunately, how life works. People will come at you. Now, Kirby Smart and Georgia got to be strong enough to, number one, fix whatever the problems are. And, we don't know what happened in that car wreck. I mean, but there will be reports that come out. We'll have to see what the facts are. But bottom line, I can assure you, you look at Auburn after they won the national championship in 2010. Within a month, you had 4 players arrested for robbery, for kicking the door in of some house, and they were arrested. 4 of them, and that was bad for Auburn's image. And then in the summer of 2012, you had 2 Auburn football players unfortunately killed at a pool party, and another one was killed. And the 2012 season for Auburn just was a disaster. They lost every conference game, went 3-9, the worst team in 62 years. That stuff carries over. It matters. And you go back to 1994, Franz, when the geniuses, the soothsayers of the NCAA did away with athletic dorms.
Oh,
unfair recruiting advantage. So let's just take all these players and just put them wherever and give them a per diem and let them be responsible. I mean, of course, they blew the money and did all kind of stuff. So what they've done now is they've built these giant dorms on campuses. As long as they're not 51% student athletes, they're not athletic dorms. So every campus now, they've kind of fixed that. You're not seeing the problems, but for a long time.
Yeah, they fill it up with student managers. They fill it up with staffers. They fill it up with all sorts of. They fill it up with all sorts of things like that, and it just changes the whole. But it has helped to some extent. It has. You look at Alabama won the 1992 national championship, and shortly thereafter it comes out there that one of their stars, Malik Langham, I think his name was.
Antonio Langham,
that's who it was.
Yeah.
Malik Langham. Antonio Langham was taking money from agents and so forth like that. It affected Alabama tremendously. Now, over down at FSU, Bobby Bowden, what? Oh, come on now. He wouldn't have taken $16,000 from an agent because we was giving him $25,000. What would he take a pay cut for?
Yeah. Well,
Bobby Bowden charmed the media in such a way that even with the internet, it just rolled right off of him. I mean, Bobby knew how to handle it. Bobby had every time the Seminoles played a home game on Sunday morning after that home game, Bobby Bowden had breakfast for everybody at a Tallahassee hotel, and he paid for breakfast for everybody and sat there with them and gave them the story. Back when I was at Sanford University or South Georgia College, a junior college in Douglas, Georgia, It worked. Bobby could charm anybody. But that was then. That was 25 years ago, and the charm has given way to 10,000 more reporters out there on the internet. And I think the point that both of us are getting to is the fact that there's no place to hide anymore. You better, if you're telling everybody I'm squeaky clean, you better be.
Yeah.
You better be. Jim Harbaugh up at Michigan, they're trying to nail him for what they're saying are he misled the NCAA, which is their way of saying he lied. Now, Harbaugh is saying, I didn't lie to anybody. I told everybody what I knew to be the truth at the moment. And as much of a jerk as Harbaugh is, I don't think anybody's ever accused him of lying. I don't remember anybody accusing him of lying. Do you?
Yeah. No.
I don't know. A lot of people have said, wow, he's the biggest jerk in the world. I'm one of them. But I can't imagine that he lied to the NCAA. I really can't. And they're going to jack him up. They're going to jack him up the way they did Bruce Pearl. I guarantee you.
Yeah. Well, they're going to, but lied about what? I mean, be specific, because I know there's all kind of stuff they're coming after him. But remember when he was very controversial comments he made about having these recruiting camps, football camps in the South, right in the backyard of Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia and Florida, and people were like, "What is this? What is it? This is wrong." Well, he got some players, but he wasn't getting the top players. But be specific, I know, because a lot of people don't like Harbaugh, they're jealous of him, and they're going to go after him.
Well, what he did then was he wasn't coming down there to get 5-star recruits, not on that trip. What he was coming down there to do was to show everybody Michigan is open for business. I'm the guy in charge. I'm going to be innovative as I can be. I'm going to do things that get your attention and will keep your attention. And I'm going to transform Michigan football. And he's done exactly that.
Yes, he has.
What he did was he came and he took his stake with his flag on it and he stuck it down in here and said, hey, we may not get the 5-star guy here, but I'm going to get a linebacker, Deuce Spurlow, the kid that he transferred to Florida. He's a kid that they came down there, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Ole Miss, everybody wanted that kid. And he went to Michigan. Now he went up there, got hurt, and now he decided to come home, and he's going to the South, and he's transferred to Florida. But that's the perfect example. This is a kid that goes to Michigan because Michigan had a coach that had the foresight to go out there and do something nobody else has done. But what did it do? It brought all this attention to the University of Michigan. And suddenly Michigan is a player in a place where they haven't ever been a player. Now Michigan can walk into the door at St. Thomas Aquinas down in Fort Lauderdale, which is a football factory. They can go to Stone Mountain, Georgia, to Stevenson High School. And Jim Harbaugh can walk in there and he's treated like the second coming. He's Moses walking across he's Jesus walking across the water. He's Moses parting the Red Sea when he comes to a place. And it's all because he had the foresight to do something that wasn't against the rules, but it bent the rules to as far as they could be bent.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that take on it. And he did it and it's paid off. But Michigan for a long time did recruit the deep South, especially Florida and Georgia, places like Atlanta. They go to Birmingham, New Orleans. Notre Dame did the same thing. Ohio State, look at the state of Ohio. It's the 5th most productive state in America for producing Division I college football players. Georgia's 4th, California's 3rd, Florida 2nd, Texas 1st, Alabama 6th, Louisiana 7th, Pennsylvania 8th, Mississippi 9th, and Illinois 10th. That's right, Illinois. They produce about 70 players a year, Division I. Most of them go other places. And you look at Ohio. When Michigan has been really, really good in football, they've had a lot of players come out of Ohio.
Yeah.
And they're not getting them like they used to. And there's just not that many high school football players coming out of the state of Michigan. So they've got to come where the people are. And Pennsylvania is still, it's amazing, is number 8, in spite of all the people over the years that have left and moved to what we call the Sun Belt.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the growth in Atlanta in the last 30 years. It's gone from 3 million people to 6.5 million people.
And look at
That's
all
not-
look
yeah.
at all the good players who are coming out of Metro Atlanta. Metro Atlanta now, I would say, rivals any metro area in the country, including Dallas, including Los Angeles, for extraordinary football players. It's an amazing thing. But you made a great point there that all of a sudden you got coaches, and Michigan recruited before Harbaugh down here, but they didn't get anybody for the most part. Now they come down here, and the whole goal is if they get 2 or 3 players from the Deep South, that's that opens doors for them. They get guys with speed and stuff like that. Ohio State's been doing it for years. Urban Meyer came in down here, got the Bosa kids. I mean, just those 2 guys alone certainly made it worth his time to spend down here in Florida. But
where are the Bosas from?
Fort Lauderdale, St.
Thomas Aquinas. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, you're right. Hey, Franz, look, we got a little over a minute left with you before we got to go to the break and move on to Jordan Hill. But great insight, man. God, your recollection of this it puts things in perspective. And next time you're on, we're going to continue this because it's a great time of year where we got college basketball. A lot of that left. We're also close before we start spring practice. But questions, a lot of questions are going to need to be answered, whether they're at Georgia or about the future of college football with NIL. I absolutely believe college football has a bright future because remember, as you and Buddy Martin know, you talked about it. Who owns college football? The fans do. Franz, we got about 20 seconds. Your closing comments about what I just said.
Well, the fans do own it, and the fans are speaking in volumes in a loud manner because they're not going to ball games anymore. And I think 2 things have got to happen is I think that they've got to find a way to reconnect with the fans, and they got to eliminate ESPN as the sole source of college football. They need competition.
Yeah, competition's the spice of life. Franz, great job. We'll be right back with Jordan Hill.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covering Georgia. And Jordan, a lot happening in the world right now. And I was just talking with Franz Beer, GatorbaitMedia.com, about a lot of things in college. And my take when I see something, I'm just a huge Stetson Bennett fan, and I'm not being a homer here. I'm an Auburn grad, but I just know how people operate. And when people are successful, They cannot wait to tear you to pieces. What do you know about it? Short of asking Stetson himself, which, I was trained when I was a TV reporter. If you wanted to know something, don't ask the neighbor, ask the source. Now, if they won't talk to you, you got to then go figure something out. But I trust you because I know you don't come on here and you don't say things unless you have something to back it up. You'll just say, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what we know at this point is that he was out real early Sunday morning, banging
Yeah.
on doors, and I mean, just based on everything I can tell, I think he just he was a little overserved,
Yeah.
And it was just did something stupid, and I think Stetson would admit to as much. So to me, the biggest thing with all this, there were people saying, well, he should have been at the Senior Bowl. This would have never happened. I think that's beside the point. That has nothing really to do with the conversation. He just needs to grow up from this, which he can.
Yeah.
He's 25 years old. He did something stupid. I could tell you plenty of stuff that I did that I wish
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done. But I mean, that's really my biggest takeaway from this. From based on everything we heard, there's nothing more serious than that. I mean, it was just, as someone pointed out that I think was true. This could have been a whole lot worse had he decided, hey, I'm going to get behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah.
I mean, this on the grand scheme of things, a very foolish thing to do. Luckily, based on just what we know at this point, nobody got hurt, nobody was, injured or anything like that. And again, you kind of hope someone like that, he'll grow from it, realize that was a really dumb mistake, especially knowing what's coming, and just try to be better from it.
Yeah, I can't imagine when I was 24, 25 doing anything stupid. I mean,
especially after winning 2 straight national titles, y'all couldn't have told me nothing, Rob. I've been all over the place.
I would have been short of God. I would have been pretty close to. Look, let me tell you how the world moves and spins. The earth spins on its axis and whatever. But far be it, Jordan, from anyone out there in the media to ever embellish about something. I just don't think that ever happened.
I've never heard of such.
I haven't either. So, Jordan, that's what I like about you is that ask a question, you give an answer, but you also give an answer that makes sense. And look, whatever he did, own up to it, take responsibility for it, fix it, and move on. You can't punish people forever. The long shadow of people that just can't let go when people screw up. Now, if it's over and over and over, hey, accountability is everything. And I believe he'll own up to it. Let's talk about Georgia right now. There are great coaches on this staff. Todd Monken, one of them. He's a young guy. I mean, he's like 61.
56.
He can coach anywhere. The rigors of recruiting. It's always been tough, but now with Twitter and texting, you're really never off. Is that taking a toll, you think, on him? Or I'm sure it does, but why would you want to leave? In my opinion, you wouldn't want to go to any other college program, but I could see the NFL, but just to be a coordinator versus a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a big part of this, and I don't think it's solely this, but I do think a big piece of it is the calendar. I mean, there's a bunch of people who've talked about just how rigorous the recruiting calendar is. These assistants, and it's not just at Georgia, all of these assistants cannot wait for Wednesday to be, signed, sealed, delivered, all that stuff done, because it'll be a chance for them to, I think Georgia's staff's going to get about a week, where they can kind of just hang out and chill out. But it's brutal. I really do not know how any college coach does it. And again, this outside Georgia, this is everywhere. And I think that's a piece of the puzzle when it comes to Todd Monken looking at the NFL. There's been reports that he is going to interview with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was a report that he has already interviewed with the Baltimore Ravens. But I do think there's a piece of it too. Todd Monken's time as an NFL offensive coordinator was not successful. Tampa Bay, they were okay. They weren't bad, but he did really, really well with Ryan Fitzpatrick, which a lot of people did not have similar success. But the team, was never a Super Bowl contender. Went to Cleveland for a year. He was not the play caller with the Freddie Kitchens there with the Browns, and that year was a disaster. It was a very bad season. Freddie does not wind up in that job for very long. And I do think there's a piece of this that says, I'm a better coach than what I showed as an NFL coach. Again, I think it's a number of factors. I think that, again, you do have to keep into account just how brutal having to be on the road in college and things like
Yeah.
that. Much more structured. Don't have to worry about recruiting in the NFL. And it's something to watch. I mean, just based on the number of interviews and the smoke around it, I mean, there is something to Todd Monken looking at these jobs. Now, that doesn't mean he's gone. He may look at these opportunities and say, at the end of the day, I'm best coming back to Georgia. But it's something to watch for sure. And it's something that we're definitely tracking over probably this next week, the next few weeks, as he really weighs his options.
Yeah. And the more you win, the more people are out there lining up, take a number to come after you. I mean, there's stories out there about Georgia popping up left and right. I remember when Auburn won the national title in 2010, 2013, the Cam Newton stuff. Suddenly someone who is not a household name is a household name, and people are just looking under every stone and doormat to find something on you. You got to hope for the best. Look, this show, we're looking for content of solutions. You can find all this stuff about Georgia. You pick the school. We ain't the show for that crap. Okay. You want to go hear that stuff? Go to some sewage social media site. We get Jordan Hill on here, man. We're going to talk some Georgia football, Georgia basketball, Georgia baseball, Georgia recruiting. If there's something big, he's going to tell us. Jordan, spring practice is about to start. Okay. I'm already getting the shakes, man. Give me a timetable. Who's the first school out there that's going to start spring practice in the SEC in football? Do you know yet? Are we looking at February 11th or 18th? Something I need help.
Yeah, I know. I don't know yet. I think Auburn's already put out when they're starting. I don't remember what day. Georgia's going to lock it down till probably that morning and send us a message, say, hey, y'all, we're going out of the practice field. So, I mean, it'll be in March for Georgia.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but it's going to be a fascinating one for Georgia just with everything they lose. And you can never ignore or not think about a quarterback battle. People love talking about quarterback battles, and I know that's going to be at the forefront for Georgia.
Well, you got two really good ones. 2 5-stars. And Gunnar Stockton, I think, is a 5-star. Carson Beck out of Jacksonville. Carson Beck, wasn't there something his coach or someone put out he was going to play in the 21 season, and maybe he got in the doghouse for 5 minutes or something. But all that being said, this kid, I mean, he just came in backup role, but he's 6'4", 215, 220. I mean, there's your typical pro quarterback looking kind of guy. But to me, Kenny McIntosh was not a household name. Neither was, I always think when I hear Ladd McConkey's name, I think of Liam Neeson in the movie Taken. You don't know me, but you will. I have a particular set of skills, and I will use them, and I will find you. Ladd McConkey, he's Liam Neeson's version of a football player. These weren't household names. Who are some guys coming up on the Georgia football roster as well as anybody, because the way they're recruiting, 1 or 2, if they slip to 3rd in the country, wow, they're loaded. It's not just plug and replace. It's no big deal to lose a Stetson Bennett, because it is. But, God, there's a lot of talent there, and it's generationally incredible talent what they have at Georgia.
The names that I would say to watch, I would say Andrew Paul, who was a true freshman last season. He tears his ACL during fall camp. I mean, he was really impressing people. Obviously, his recovery is going to be something to watch, and don't know if he'll be limited at all during spring practice. Dylan Bell, he played a good bit. He was a true freshman. He's a receiver I think could really benefit with A.D. Mitchell leaving. Could be a guy that makes a lot of big plays. Showed some flashes, and man, he was like a 3-star, and we saw him during fall camp, and it was like, who is that guy? I mean, he just looks the part, and I think he's a really talented guy. And then Bear Alexander, he put on a show against TCU, defensive tackle. I think he's a guy that could have a very big season, and it is not going to be easy replacing a Jalen Carter, but it makes it a whole lot easier when you got a young guy like Bear Alexander who gives you that option.
Well, yeah, Trevon Walker the year before from Moultrie, right down there above Jacksonville, number one pick in the draft. I think his dad or father or brother is a Marine. You don't just become the number one player in the draft without having exceptional people around you. Let's talk about Jalen Carter. What is it about him? Because prior to this year, again, he wasn't a household name. Trevon Walker last year, he didn't come out of nowhere to have that kind of talent, but they've just got him stacked up at every position at Georgia. But I think that the story here, and I want your answer, how does Kirby Smart and this staff keep these guys from all wanting to leave? Because they're not bringing in a ton of guys from the portal, and they're not losing a ton. They're losing some, but not a ton to the portal.
Well, I think you go in with the understanding that guys are going to leave, and I think they understand that, and they want guys to be successful because that helps when they go into households and say, "Look, we see you being." Because Kirby talked about this last pro day, getting ready for that 2023 draft. He said, when you have, say, a George Pickens, well, then when you go recruit a guy and you can say, "We think you can be the next George Pickens," that success kind of breeds upon itself. And again, just look at the classes they've signed year after year. I mean, I don't know if he's had one outside the top 5. I mean, they just do a great job of getting in talent year after year. And that makes it a whole lot easier when guys leave. You want guys coming back, but too, you got talented guys behind them.
Yeah, and you think about as much as Georgia is just dominating football and recruiting and all, Georgia basketball, I mean, got the win Saturday over South Carolina. Okay, that's 4 conference wins. All of last year, you had, one win. Give me a report card to this point, year 1 with Mike White. I'm sure you've had a chance to interact with him. Your takeaway on the whole Georgia basketball program, and I got a follow up to this question.
Yeah, I would give it probably like a B minus, a B. I mean, they've done a really good job, and you have to keep in mind where this program was. They went 6-22 on Tom Crean's last year. It was just a disaster, and their roster was not SEC caliber. They've done a really good job. There's been a few missed opportunities along the way. Could have beaten Georgia Tech. On the road, that would have been a pretty big win, especially because Tech is not that good this year. Lost to Vanderbilt, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before that. Snapped a 10-game home winning streak. That was a game they probably should have won, and one that they may want at the end of the year. Given that, I think at this point they've got legitimate NIT hopes. I think they still have to keep winning for that to be a possibility by the time we get to March. But they've done a really good job. Recruiting's been solid. They missed out on Edgerrin James Jr., which, yes, Edgerrin James, if you remember him back with the Colts in Miami. His son is a point guard and was really talented. Winds up signing with Cincinnati, but they did get 6'8" power forward named Dylan James. He'll be really good starting with next season. So I think there's reason for optimism when it comes to this program, what they've done so far. I don't think anybody expected this team to, really contend in the SEC. I think I had them at 15-17 overall. So they're in a really good spot to, toy with 18, 19 wins. But schedule's going to get really tough. They got to play at Auburn on Wednesday night. And I think Auburn's going to come in really fired up, having lost 2 straight games, and the fact that Georgia beat them in Athens earlier this season.
You remember last year, Auburn-Georgia game went down to the absolute last play in Athens. And Auburn got the win, but Georgia is just one of these programs like, and I'd say Texas A&M in football, I'll believe it when I see it. But we've seen Georgia have greatness, go to the Final Four, and be really good under Hugh Durham and Tubby Smith. They had a run, but it's the consistency part. And it's at Auburn, they're fairly consistent. They're consistent now with Bruce Pearl. But another thing about Georgia, and you look in that recruiting wise for basketball, how mad do Georgia fans, because having worked at Auburn, I always have said when Auburn fans start getting as mad about losing in basketball as they do in football, they'll have a good basketball program. Is that the same mindset at Georgia?
Yeah, I think they're trying to build it, and I think Georgia's trying to take advantage of the attention that Georgia football's got right now. And, that's money coming into the whole athletic administration. And I think that Mike White talked about that early on, that, hey, we want to build off of the success Georgia football's having. And, you
Yeah.
know, they brought recruits in to Georgia football games. I'm trying to remember, I think it might have been the Tennessee game that they had basketball recruits in the stands. And I mean, that's a great way to sell the program and say, look, if we compete, you know, people will show up. And even to credit this year, you know, again, they're not going to the NCAA tournament, but the crowds have grown. I mean, you know, once they went through non-con, I think they went like 10-3 in non-conference play, which really solid. There were really good crowds. That Vanderbilt game that they wound up losing by 3, that was a packed house and got pretty loud. So I think it's a great way to sort of sell what's coming. You know, they still have got to fight off in recruiting. You know, Bruce Pearl, I hope for the sake of Mark Fox and Tom Crean, Bruce owed them like a Christmas basket, a holiday basket every year, because he just went into Georgia and just picked what he wanted over and over again. And, you know, I think that they understand that they've got to fight some of those battles in state while also not being just totally locked into having to recruit Georgia. Mike has talked about the importance of that, but also we got to get the right guys, just period. So, So, I mean, I think things are trending in the right direction. Is it ever going to be Georgia football? No. I mean, it just won't be. But you can have plenty of people who will watch both, especially if you're winning.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and give to give. Don't give to get. We live in the greatest country in the world. We have great guests like Jordan Hill. Jordan, tell people how they can follow you, and look forward to having you on next week.
I know you got choked up having to say bye to me, Rob, but yeah, dogs247.com, at Jordan Davis Hill on Twitter, and at dogs247. So no football and basketball, but plenty to still talk about and plenty to write about for sure.
No, there is. And you put out a lot of great stuff on social media. I see it every day. And folks, whether it's Georgia or whatever, take a look at what Jordan Hill is doing. Young, true grit journalists. There are not that many of them. Need to be more of them. But if you want to mentor somebody and see how to do it, I get compliments from fans of every fan base on this guy. Love having him. It's an honor. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.